Water, as we all know, is a unique in its relevance to economic, cultural, and social benefits. The interdependencies between these three creates complex challenges that requires improving the approaches to valuing water. It is important to understand that the value of water directly impacts resource management, and therefore valuing water leads to more informed decision. Till date, we are always discussing about 3 R's: reuse, recycle, and reduce. Nowadays, we shall convert it to 5 R's: reuse, recycle, reduce, rejuvenation, and respect. Rejuvenation of river, traditional water storage structures such as step wells, bowlies, rejuvenation of reservoirs is now need of the hour. For this, National Water Mission, Ministry of Jal Shakti has initiated a campaign, Catch the Rain, with the tagline, Catch the Rain where it falls, when it falls. It is a campaign to nudge state and citizen to create appropriate rainwater harvesting structures suited to the climatic condition and subsoil strata of the area. You know, this climatic condition and subsoil strata of the area is a very important thing. A rainwater harvesting structure which is suitable in Rajasthan may not function well in Guwahati, Mumbai, and other parts of the India. So we should always consider this aspect while designing rainwater harvesting structures. Now, by providing suitable rainwater harvesting structure system, we may achieve the target of sustainable rainwater management, which automatically makes our country as Tanker Mukt Bharat. And this will also help in controlling urban flooding during rainy season. Rainwater harvesting is a cost-effective solution to bridge the gap between water availability and demand. It has been increasingly recommended to harness the available water as the race to bridge the gap between limited water availability and increasing demand for water narrows in India. Rainwater harvesting and rejuvenation of a reservoir can be done through many different methods and many different models. But not all these are necessarily scalable or suitable for uptake by citizens across the country. Today, we have in our panel representatives from Dhyan Velagam Foundation, Mission Kakatiya by the government of Telangana, and Mission and from Pani Sasthan to give us insight into the potential for such models. All three panelists are experts of their field. I request to each panelist not to take more than 12 to 30 minutes for presenting their case, as the time is an essence of any event and we have to complete our session within stipulated time. Our first panelist is Mr. N. Venkateshwaran, Chief Executive, Dhyan Velagam Foundation. Mr. Venkateshwaran is the Chief Executive of Dhyan Velagam Foundation, one of the thematic collectives of Dhyan Foundation, working exclusively to scale up Dhyan's community owned and managed small scale water bodies across India. He is an agriculture engineer who has worked at the Dhyan Foundation for the last 27 years. Now I invite him to kindly share his inputs with us about the today's topic. Over to Mr. Venkateshwaran.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Arora, our moderator, and also the organizer. Is it audible?
Yes, sir. We can hear you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So I am going to share our experience, Dhyan Foundation's experience on small scale water bodies. I straight away, because our moderator has given only 12 minutes, I try to limit within that 12 minutes. So this thing is, we Dhyan Foundation working in this water conservation field for the last 25 plus years. So what we do, we choose the particular water bodies, the small scale water bodies, particularly in South India, all this Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, Pondicherry, and also to some extent in North India, Bihar, Orissa, all these places, these small scale water bodies are exist. So these small scale water bodies have been created during the King's period. Nobody exactly knows the age of these structures. All these structures are created in the areas where the rain shadow situation. So the rainfall is less, water scarce situation. So with this background, our ancestors have created these water bodies. And another interesting thing is these water bodies have been created with the community participation, collective action. All these water bodies are commons. After the Britishers' arrival, all this management regime, this people community management is transferred to the mainstream. So after that, these water bodies are facing problem of their management. So in this situation, Dawn Foundation have identified this as one of the theme and started organizing community and building the community institutions around these water bodies at different level. All these water bodies are nested on hydrology basis as cascade. Group of tanks linked on either watershed basis or cascade basis. So what we try to do, identify these cascades and identify the issues of these water bodies. Then we are going with the community, organizing the community, and we enable the community to own these structures. So for initiating this ownership, we started mobilizing resources from mainstream and also from CSR. And then we are demonstrating the community management without giving these works to the contractor. We try to build this model around the community. After this initial entry program, community will take care. This is our model. So I will share these things. So we in this model, 2-3 salient things are there. First of this thing is community driven. Entirely this is community driven. Here, people planning. So people will plan what kind of issues are there, how what kind of challenges, all those things. Community plan, where to work, what to work, all those kind of things, community planning. Then people contribution. So not only planning, they involve, they also contribute a sizable portion of the investment. So the community investment. So they share 25% of the works cost. Whatever the remaining 75% comes from the mainstream and other CSR projects. 25% of the money comes from the community, from their own collective this thing. So that will build the stake. This is second people contribution. Then people implementation. The third aspect is people implement. So we just, the Dawn Foundation is facilitating the techno-managerial support, estimate preparation, technical ideas, all those kind of things. We backbone, but the community is taking charge for implementation, purchase of material, where to work, how to work, engaging the machineries or engaging the labor. All those kind of things will be done through their association promoted around water bodies. We call them these institutions Vailagam nested institutions. We promote each water body Vailagam, this institution with the stakeholder. Then at cascade level, group of tanks, there also we create another structure. Then at block level, we promote this federation. So because we cannot see them as a technical structure, these are all living structure, heritage structures. So the community institution should be there on nested basis. So that will take care of the future maintenance once the rehabilitation is over. So this is people implementation, not through contractors. Then endowment. After the renovation is over, we create the endowment fund around each water bodies. So this is nothing but corpus fund. The interest portion can be, because these structures are facing recurring issues. Every year the rain will come, erosion will happen, some bushes will be there in the tank, some maintenance works are needed. So for that, the endowment component is created for each water body. That interest, the endowment is nothing but some amount is kept as idle in the bank account in the name of institutions. So the interest portion only can be used for regular maintenance. That is the endowment. Then people movement. So this is not only at each tank level or each cascade level or each block level, at national level or at state level or at district level, this should be as a movement. So the community driven process. So these are all the elements as part of community driven process. So here what we say, it includes all water bodies, tanks, uranis, village ponds, farm ponds, percolation ponds, lakes and anaicuts. For all these water bodies, we use the same structure. So far, we have promoted around 6,500 plus such institutions around each water body. in 7 states, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, Telangana, Pondicherry, some parts of Bihar, Munger and Gaya district, and also in Odisha, Mayurpanj and Koraput. So these are all the 7 states. Our works have been already demonstrated. One interesting thing is we demonstrated with the GI jet at Vijayanagaram district, two cascades having 74 plus tanks. We demonstrated under MGNRGA. So one of the presentation, the keynote address on IAS officer given from Karnataka state. So we demonstrated at Vijayanagaram with the GI jet, two cascades with the community driven process. So then based on this experience, the government of India have given GO to all state government to replicate this cascade approach elsewhere in the country, wherever this kind of small scale water bodies are there. So this is about community driven process. The second element on this model is nested institutions, community governance, local management, then use of rights agreement, because these water bodies not only seen as irrigation structures, these have multiple benefit structures, because on all these water bodies having flora and fauna. So in the bund and also in the water spread area, lot of vegetations are there, tree plantation is there, fisheries we can rear. It is multi-benefit structure. So in that case, local management, use of rights agreement, then encroachment eviction, debt storage creation, and later this agriculture. So for that we can integrate this latest farmer producer organization. So for ultimately this structure serving for agriculture production. So we can promote FPOs also, farmer producer organization, with the farming community who gets benefit out of these water bodies. So this is our people structure. This nested model is the second aspect of this model. The third aspect is how the funding. So what we do, this last 25 years of our experience, we mobilize grants for this renovation. 75% of the renovation cost comes from mainstream. We integrate with all these watershed projects. NABARD implemented WDF watershed project, central government watershed projects under NAVPRA, under IWMI. So all these watershed projects are mainly funding for this drought prone area for water conservation work. So for our model, we integrated convergence with all these schemes run by both central and the state government, and also some innovative tank silt. So because this tank silt, we cannot see it as a rehabilitation as deepening work and desilting. This desilted soil, some portion can be used for this manure, tank silt application, and also crop loan as a loan product, then crop insurance, palm ponds, palm orchard, inland fisheries, afforestation. So these are all the multi-benefit out of these water bodies we can generate in addition to rehabilitation as community process. This is another aspect of this model. Then we follow this river basin approach. We start from each water body, then cascade, then at watershed, then at sub-basin, then basin level. After the CSR funding, we work with the Axis Bank Foundation, Hindustan Unilever, BPCL, all these CSR. For each CSR, we promote this up to the scale. Each sub-basin or basin, we allocate for one CSR funding on a scale. So say for example, our Axis Bank Foundation project at Tamil Nadu, one of the river basin, Pambar Basin, we renovate 1,500 water bodies in 2 phases. First 5 years, we renovated 750 water bodies. Now the second phase is going on. There we concentrate another 1,000 water bodies. So this will create significant impact at scale, at particular geography, or at a particular basin. So all the tanks in a particular basin renovated means that total area is getting benefit, and also the multiple impact will be realized. So ours is on ecosystem based and also river basin based approach. Convergence, in addition to this water conservation work, we converge with this NREGP and also PMKSY, Minor Irrigation Department, IWMP, SFAC, NABARD. So all these people are funding. This is long-term work. We start with the water bodies with the rehabilitation, with the community process. Then we slowly move to livelihood, agriculture and related aspects, then marketing. So because this farmers' need is not water alone. Water is the starting point. Then we integrate the other productivity enhancement and other aspects. So this is what our model. So the program management is in like this river basin based implementation, then pilots on a scale, Then resource institution, we share our resources to many other people, including government and also other stakeholders, NGOs. Then water literacy. From our experience, we educate the community as well as stakeholders on this approach. Then research and studies also we take up during this 25 years of our experience. Then stakeholders council. Then creative implementation. Every year we do innovation on this approach. We add a new element based on the context, based on the need. So I think this is our model. We have a lot of our experience, lot of our publications. Based on the need, we will share those materials based on the requirement from National Water Mission and other. We also collaborate with the National Water Mission and all organizers through this India Water Week, and also participating in the workshop, seminars, sharing our experience. So with this, I end my presentation. So I seek any questions, clarification, I will clarify. Thanks for this opportunity. I think so I finished within this time limit, whatever the moderator given. Thank you, sir, once again.
Thank you, sir. You have really taken the time actually given to you, and you have completed your task within stipulated time. Thanks for your insights coming directly from Dhan Foundation. For better appreciation of your work, I may ask you 2-3 inputs. That first is, what is the role that self-help group play in the management of water bodies in your program? That's my first point. And second is, can you throw some light on the successes you have had in working with women's group? These are the 2 points I have. If you can give input on that.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you. You very good points, these 2 points. So what we do, sir, we promote each water body, the Vailagam. This is water. This is like Water Users Association. So once this rehabilitation is over, then people think what next. So what we do for this sustaining this Vailagams, this Water Users Association, we promote immediately the self-help group, both women and men. Say, for example, in one tank, one water body, there are 50 farmers means with their family members. So we treat each family is the member of this Water Users Association. So from them, 60 members means we promote 5 self-help groups under that Vailagam. These 5 self-help groups are either with the men or with the women, sometimes exclusive women also, few self-help group, because the family is the member. In that family, either a man or a woman can be the part of this self-help group. So once this renovation work is over, these self-help groups are playing greater role in sustainability of these water users associations. So they will conduct a monthly meeting, then they will save 100 rupees or 150 rupees based on their need. Then after 6 months of this self-help group, they go for bank linkage. So this bank linkage is mainly for meeting their crop production demand, crop production need. So this self-help group not only provides the money, it provides the base and also space for their meeting point. So they will discuss about all these water related issues, planning, all those kind of things integrated with this self-help group. So women play a greater role. So because then the women are regular, disciplined, and also they follow all the rules and regulations of this self-help group, attending regular meeting, attending, paying their savings, and also whatever the decisions, these bylaws, these rules and regulations of the self-help group, these women are following very strict when compared to men. So we have such 6,500 self-help groups with this water users associations. So this self-help groups only gives the space for sustainability of this water users association in long run. Some groups are 20 years, some groups are 25 years. So this will give the continuity for taking this water issue for all the years. So we have very good experience. So the Dhan Foundation is known for its self-help group. We integrate this with our water program. We have exclusive landless self-help group. We have more than 50,000 self-help groups. This Chinnapillai, who got this Sakti Praskar Award, and also she is famous for this self-help group. Chinnapillai, you might have heard. She is from one of our self-help group near Madurai. So this is what our experience are about self-help group. The self-help groups are doing greater role in this water conservation, agriculture production, and also sustainability. So we have 6,500 plus self-help groups. Out of this, 50% of the groups are with women members, women participants. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. That's all from my side. Any other member of the group may ask question directly from him.
Hello, Mr. Venkatesh. Thank you so much for case study about the Oranis. And I have one question, because since we were associated with you for this augmenting water scarcity and food security of all small farmers in Andhra, Karnataka and Tamil Nadu for almost 3 to 4 years. And during that time, Orani was one of the very, very good example for the supplementing the drinking water demand for many months. At the same time, what you have just elaborated and replying to Mr. Arora, I have one question that when we are talking about the Vailagam, how you are maintaining the sustainability of Vailagam, because these are the groups of women and men and you have 60 members. So the sustainability of Vailagam is one of the major issue. So just you can conclude, because I've joined a little late today due to my meeting. I just wanted to know about the sustainability of Vailagam.
Yes, madam. Yes, madam. Thank you, madam. Thank you for your this thing. This is right question and also needed question. So what we do, madam, this in mostly these water users associations are only taking up rehabilitation. After that, they vanish. But our approach, immediately after this rehabilitation, whatever work, this renovation of supply channels, renovation of Urani. So immediately after that, what we do, we promote the self-help group with the Vailagam members. Vailagam members are the stakeholders of tank or Urani, those who get benefit out of these water bodies. So then immediately after the Vailagam promotion, we take up this renovation work with their contribution. So then we felt from, we learned from our Kalanjiam program on co-parallel program in Dawn Foundation. This self-help groups only give the sustainability, the first step for sustainability, because the self-help group meetings are having a monthly meeting. Every month they meet 15 to 20 members. So then they do some regular transactions, financial transactions. So we learned from our Kalanjiam program, one of the biggest program in Dawn Foundation. Similar way, we promote, we also here also in water program, we promote with the water users members, the self-help group. Once the self-help group is promoted, then they automatically started meeting every month. Say for example, in one Urani, there are 100 families, means we promote 5 self-help groups with 20 members each. These 5 self-help group meetings regularly conducted. So all these office bearers of these 5 self-help group, 5 each. So 25 leaders will discuss about Urani issues every month. So the regular maintenance, and also some portion of the money from the self-help group, they allocate for this Urani association or this Vailagam. So then automatically the financial sustainability will be coming. So then this money and also regular meeting. So they plan for each based on the situation, based on their age. Every year they take up some issues. Say first, initially they set right their water bodies, the access to water, repair, maintenance, all those things. So then they go for their collective action, some of the collective action, then they go for their individual development, poverty reduction. So what they do, they get loan from these self-help groups, then that through that loan amount, they go for their livelihood development. So that will automatically happen. So then this, whatever the transaction they do, some portion of their money is kept as common fund. Then they create this endowment. Endowment is another component. We create common fund because all this sustainability revolves around the finance. So for this common properties, they need money for always doing this repairs and renovation and also some other collective action. So for that, the self-help groups contribute every year some common fund. So with that common fund, they take up every year some collective action. And also we promote this culture of collective action, like Sramadan. Every year, 5 days, like our Gandhi ji birthday, and also World Environment Day, World Water Day. So these days we do symbolic this Ramadan. People gathered at the water bodies and they do small physical work, human labor they provide. So through that 5 days, we inculcate this Ramadan, so regular maintenance, so that we create. And also once in a 5 year, once in a period, they need to do some major repairs, sluice repair, some channel cleaning. So with that common fund they do, and also this endowment interest can be used for this regular maintenance. So this way we slowly introduce component. Then we also convergence with the other development programs like this insurance program, top insurance, life insurance, and also so many entitlement programs are there for convergence. So because these associations are there, these institutions are there, that provides the legitimacy for integrating with the local panchayat and also block development office and also district administration. So we facilitate these water users association Vailagams to represent this agriculture grievance day, headed by collector, each district collector. So like that, this institutions provide space for regular activities. So that will ensure the sustainability, madam. Thank you, madam. I think I explained your question.
Yes. Thank you so much, Mr. Venkatesh.
Thank you, madam. Thank you, madam.
Now our second panelist in this session is Mr. Nagendra Rao, is ANC Operations and Maintenance, Mission Kakatiya, Government of Telangana. Mr. Rao is working as an engineer-in-chief with the Mission Kakatiya program. He has been associated with the program since 2016, wherein he was responsible for implementation as chief engineer. Now I invite him to share his views on today's topic. Over to Mr. Nagendra Rao.
Thank you, Raji. I'm B. Nagendra Rao, Engineer-in-Chief O&M for Telangana. As you know, Telangana is carved out of Andhra Pradesh in 2014. And we have unique geographical features of Telangana, wherein the river Godavari and Krishna will flow at a height of plus 100 meters. And the highest point of Telangana is around 620 meters. And every raindrop that falls on this territory has to be conserved, otherwise it has to go into the rivers and drain off. So one of the priorities that has been given by the ancestors, the Kakatiyas or Shatavahanas, they have built up a huge number of minor irrigation tanks, numbering around 75,000 odd members. And we were, as soon as Telangana was formed, the government of Telangana has embarked on this mission of conserving the rainwater for Telangana. Whatever that comes in Telangana catchment area should be conserved. And for that purpose, hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir, we can hear you very well.
Yes, sir.
So for that purpose, the government of Telangana has embarked on one scheme called Mission Kakatiya. Because Kakatiyas were the first rulers who have constructed the minor irrigation tanks in Telangana, and also some large tanks like Ramappa or Pakala or Laknavaram, like that. So it was given the name of Mission Kakatiya. And in that one, we have first started with the census of the number of water bodies available in Telangana. And we have found out that about 46,531 water bodies are there, but badly ruined or breached or without any sluices or without any canal system, like that. And almost all of the schemes are fully silted up. And only some, out of the live capacity of 137 TMC, we are having only 58 or 60 TMC of live capacity. So the rainwater that is coming is just draining into the rivers. Therefore, this Mission Kakatiya program has been taken up on a mission mode. For this purpose, there was a cabinet subcommittee was formed, wherein the ministers have studied extensively the issues of minor irrigation tanks, along with the experts and other groups and all the stakeholders, and have come up with some recommendations that the entire government of minor irrigation system in Telangana, which has a unique system of chain link tanks also, wherein the surplus water of one tank will flow into the other tank. And one of the chain links is so big one that it has 123 tanks. So once the rainwater floods into an upper tank, it has to come into the second tank, third tank, and fourth tank. It goes on filling. So sometimes all the chain link tanks may not get all filled also. So this problem is also there. But however, this rainwater harvesting system has been designed by the ancestors, and it is a boon to Telangana. As soon as this census cabinet committee has finalized its recommendations to regenerate all the water bodies of 46,531 in Telangana, a program has been hatched by the administration to implement the program and to allocate money, machinery, men, and material, so that the program can be completed in a mission mode in 5 years. And so far, we have completed almost all the tanks, and Mission Kakatiya has been implemented. We have spent about 10,000 crores on administrative sanction, and we have spent about 5,000 odd crores on all the tanks. One of the issues that we faced when we thought of implementing the Mission Kakatiya was how to make the public participate in this program. So our Honorable Chief Minister gave a call to all the people in the society, and right from the students to all the public representatives, ladies and men have also participated in removing the silt, because the silt is the major factor which has impeded the storage of capacity of our tanks. And also we have got tested the silt from all the tanks by the agriculture department, and we found that this silt is good in moisture content and as well as good for application in the fields. So the program was to remove this silt from the tanks and also transport to the fields and spread it there, so that the farmer can benefit out of it, and reducing the fertilizer utilization there itself, artificial fertilization, and this is the natural fertilizer that is available to the farmer. So like that, it is kicked off, and it went off very well, and now almost all the major tanks have been repaired and in full strength. We had two good very flood seasons. One is in 2016 and the other is recent in 2020, wherein huge water has flown in across entire the state, and all these tanks have remained intact and there are no breaches reported. So that is the sustainability of this program as far as the strength is concerned. However, in order to continue with this one and also to maintain these tanks in a proper way, the government of Telangana has formed Raitu Samanvaya Samiti, wherein all the farmers of the state have been made members of these Samitis. And there is a program called Construction of Raitu Vedika, wherein for every 5,000 acres of land, a Raitu Vedika will be constructed, and all the farmers in that village or 2-3 villages will come there and will discuss on the issues of the farming as well as the water availability, and also the needs that they require that are to be fulfilled. So like that, the sustainability of these tanks and also maintenance of these tanks will be handed over to the farmers, and they will take care of these minor irrigation tanks that are there. Minor irrigation tank for the village is the only sustainable element of for water. One of the things that farmers of Telangana did is they have dug about 20 lakh borewells for getting the groundwater. However, most of them have failed. Now with the regeneration of the Mission Kakatiya and also the regeneration of the minor irrigation tanks that have taken place, we have increased the groundwater level by 3 meters to 6 meters. We want to increase and also regenerate all these borewells by means of connecting the major and medium irrigation projects and also flood to the minor irrigation tanks in a different manner, so that the water will flow into the regenerated water, or the flood water will flow into a valley which connects the chain link tanks and also the larger tanks. We want to fill up any leftover tanks, smaller, medium ones, through the major and medium irrigation systems, so that the village as a whole will get the water in their tanks, and which will sustain the rural economy and the rural agriculture. And the cut of the major irrigation projects or the medium irrigation projects will be taken care of by economizing the water usage and also increase the efficiency of the water usage in those areas. So after giving in all these inputs to the farmer, now we are seeing that the agriculture is picking up in the state, and as you all know from that, the rice production in Telangana is 62% of the what FCI has collected in the last Kharif season, and also this time also we are going to stand first in the procurement of the rice in the Telangana, and we are also diversifying in different ways for the different crops, and we are educating the farmers. Basically, it's being a nation state of just 6 years old, and the farmers of this state are deprived of water for many decades, and they need the water for sustaining their livelihood, first of all. So now that we have reached a place wherein our irrigated area, which was just 30 lakhs previously, has now 30 lakh acres previously, has now increased up to 70 lakh acres. And the people have started realizing that there is a potential in irrigation and for their livelihood also. Therefore, first of all, the concentration of the government was on creation of the sources, creation of the sustainability for the assured water supply to the farmer, so that he can be assured of one crop or two crops, especially two crops now we are giving. And after that, now from now onwards, the mode of Telangana is to increase the efficiency of the water and also the conserve the rainwater, and also to diversify the different crops so that the action becomes sustainable, and also emphasize in such a manner that they will be through the Raitu Vedikas or Raitu Samanvaya Samiti to sustain the water bodies that have been created for them. The drinking water needs and also the drinking water needs for the cattle have also been taken care of by increasing the dead storage. The overall storage capacity of the mine irrigation tanks have been increased by 8.5 TMC by the Mission Kakatiya, and this has resulted in also biodiversity and other things also. We are seeing the results. We are happy that such a big campaign has been taken place during last 6 years, and we are seeing the results also. The NAPCON scheme and also the other team, ICSAT and other people have also conducted the different studies on the Mission Kakatiya and application of the silt also, and they have come out with tremendous progress that have been achieved in the agriculture and also the application of the fertilizers and other things. And this has resulted in people realizing that the application of the silt from the tank, in fact, increases the yield by almost 17 to 18%, and reduces the fertilizer use by about 10%. So people have started utilizing the silt. Even in the summer also, they are removing the silt now, and also going to apply in their fields regularly. This especially takes place in the month of April and May, because that is the period where the farmers will be free and Rabi season will be over, and they will start removing the silt from the tanks, and they will take their fields and they will apply there. And that, of course, we will not allow anything to go beyond the silt level of the tank also, and only the silt that has been accumulated over and above the silt level will be allowed, and that will be applied in the fields also. And people are well aware now that the applications of silt will give them the better results, and also the people have now realized that water is going to be available, and water is to be conserved, and water has to be used in such a manner that they can get maximum benefit out of it. So once the education part is completed and people are made aware of the value of the water, I think we can further progress on that one also. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Now I think we'll not have a question answer session because we are already delayed. If anybody is having any question is in mind, they can directly email to Mr. Nagendra Rao and get the replies. Now we'll come to our third and final panelist is Mr. Devdutt Singh, Chief Executive Officer, Pani Sasthan. Mr. Devdutt Singh is an agri-business expert with 20 years of progressive experience in leading in development projects and managing agri and allied programs. He has managed private sector-led agriculture development program for Indian agro industry and international development organization. Mr. Singh has also been involved in business development, project development, and monitoring and evaluation of agriculture programs. He specializes in ecological farming, climate change, rural economic development policy, and program for agribusiness and rural enterprise development and management. Now I invite Mr. Singh to present his views on today's theme. Over to Mr. Devdutt Singh. Mr. Devdutt Singh. I'm not sure whether he's in this session or not.
Sir, I'll just check with him. I think he has dropped off unless he's logged in from an unknown thing, but I don't see him yet. I'll just check with him. Sir, I'm unable to get through to him, and he just sent me a message saying he has a family emergency. So I suppose we can continue. So
Now I think we can continue to second session.
sure, sir.
As per the agenda, now we can move.
Sure,
Before
sir. Thank you.
moving, let me thank everybody that today's session was very educative and session which must have cleared doubts on the people about rainwater management and rejuvenation of water bodies. I hope everybody must have enjoyed this session as well as experiences shared by the speakers who are expert of their field. Today, my words are not enough to express my gratitude and sincere thanks to our panelist speakers to enlighten us about today's topic, scalable models for sustainable rainwater management with the focus on reservoir rejuvenation. And sharing your experiences and opinion with all of us and making this webinar interesting as well as meaningful. Thanks to all of you again, including attendees, for making this webinar a meaningful and eventful program. Thank you very much. Jai Hind. Over to organizers.
Thank you very much, Mr. Arora. I think some very insightful experiences were shared by the Dahan Foundation and Mission Kakatiya, which will be very useful for all of us working in the water sector, how we can pick up lessons from these experiences. I think now we'll move to the second panel. First panel was on how to catch the rain, how to manage the rainwater well, and how we can do rainwater harvesting in a manner which is sustainable. The second session will focus on, after you've done the rainwater harvesting, how can you make best use of it by recycling and reusing and treating any wastewater which you have. So I would like to invite Mr. Anil Sinha, somebody who's worked in the development sector for more than 2 decades, headed formerly the IFC South Asia Advisory, and now a senior advisor with the 2030 Water Resource Group, to moderate this panel and introduce the panelists, please.
Thank you, Yuvraj. Namaskar, everybody, National Water Mission and esteemed panelists. This session will focus on one of the R's that was mentioned, that's reuse. And clearly, as Mr. Anirudh mentioned, if we're going to be able to use natural resources, we have to conserve them. So the treatment and reuse is an area that India is developing quickly, but it's still behind in terms of international practices. I think the top of the line would be the Singapore example of NEWater. But India being so diverse, we need centralized solutions and we need decentralized solutions catering to the local needs. So this session will focus on the decentralized treatment of wastewater, looking at technologies and looking at models that have been tried, proven, and we'll discuss also their replication to scale. Decentralized treatment, not only to save the pressure on the large centralized effluent treatment plants, but to ensure also that the local communities, their health and well-being is ensured through the treatment that's localized and as closer to the source as possible, which is the best development solution that you can have. But early stages, but some good successes. We'll have three esteemed panelists, one representing the Saharanpur municipality. We have Mr. Gyanendra as well as Mr. Umar Saif. Mr. Gyanendra is the municipal commissioner of Saharanpur that have taken this on with a very integrated and purposeful program, which has been noted by even the National Green Tribunal. And so we'll request him to talk about what Saharanpur is doing as a municipality around this. We'll also request Mr. Umar Saif, who is there as the environmental planner, to talk about some of the things that he feels should be done. So I'll hand over to Mr. Gyanendra and Mr. Umar Saif to be the first panel speakers. Thank you.
थैंक यू सर। नगरायुक्त महोदय आज अचानक किसी बैठक में चले गए, तो मैं ही ब्रीफ कर पाऊंगा। तो मेरी आवाज आ रही है ना सर? हेलो, आई एम ऑडिबल?
आपकी आवाज आ रही है
जी। सर, सहारनपुर डिस्ट्रिक्ट सहारनपुर में रेन वाटर और पूरे वाटर के लिए हम लोगों ने कुछ चीज़ें इस्तेमाल की हैं और कुछ मॉडल्स अपनाए। तो पिछले साल हम लोगों ने क्या किया कि आप लोग सब जानते ही हैं कि शासन की अपनी प्राथमिकताएं और एनजीटी की अपनी गाइडलाइंस हैं, और नेशनल वाटर मिशन की एक नरेगा के तहत गाइडलाइन है जिसे हमने अर्बन में प्रयोग किया, जबकि वो रूरल के लिए डिजाइन की गई है। इंटीग्रेटेड नेचुरल रिसोर्स मैनेजमेंट वाली जो गाइडलाइंस नेशनल वाटर है, हमने सर नगर निगम में हमारी प्रॉब्लम ये थी कि हमारी 3 नदियां हैं, तीनों नदियों में 48 से लेके 200 तक बीओडी आ रहा था नदियों में, और उसके अलावा हमारा ग्राउंड वाटर जो हमारे 10 ब्लॉक है डिस्ट्रिक्ट सहारनपुर में, वो पूरा हमारा नीचे जा रहा है, और उसके जो इंडिकेटर्स हैं हम क्रिटिकल की तरफ बढ़ रहे हैं और स्ट्रेस्ड हैं, और करीब करीब एक को छोड़ करके जो अभी नया आया है हम खराब स्थिति में हैं। तो हमारे यहाँ इस प्रोग्राम को कैसे किया कि चूंकि ये एक इंटीग्रेटेड प्रोग्राम है, तो नगर निगम ने इनिशिएट किया और हमने मैपिंग किया, क्योंकि पानी सबका साझा है और रेन वाटर हमारा शिवालिक रेंजेस से आता है। डिस्ट्रिक्ट का हमने जिलाधिकारी महोदय की अध्यक्षता में एक जिला पर्यावरण समिति रहती है, जिला गंगा समिति रहती है, और भूगर्भ जल समिति रहती है, वृक्षारोपण समिति रहती है। इन सब का हमने एकीकरण करके और एक नगर निगम में एक अलग से प्रोजेक्ट यूनिट बनाई एनवायरमेंट मैनेजमेंट का एक पूरा इंटीग्रेशन के लिए। इसमें में जीआईएस बेस्ड हमने चीजें शुरुआत की। तो बेसलाइन रिसर्च में हमने सबसे पहले वाटरशेड मैप किया पूरे डिस्ट्रिक्ट का, जो सोइल एंड लैंड यूज सर्वे का माइक्रो वाटरशेड का नंबर्स हैं, हमने उनके अकॉर्डिंग उन्हें किया, एक्वाफर मैप किया, और जो पूरा स्टेक होल्डर्स हैं, वाटर चाहे ग्राउंड वाटर वाले हैं, चाहे सरफेस वाटर वाले हैं, चाहे हमारे दूसरे किसी भी वाटर का है, हमने उसका स्टेक होल्डर मैपिंग के लिए इंडिया वाटर पार्टनरशिप से मदद मांगी, WRG से मदद मांगी। तो ये रेगुलर मदद करते ही हैं। और कुछ और स्टेक होल्डर्स से भी मदद मांगी कि वो मैपिंग में मदद करें। उसके बाद हमने एक फंड्स का मैपिंग किया, स्कीम्स का मैपिंग किया। तो हमारे यहाँ 3 तरह की बॉडीज हैं। एक नगर निगम, हम नोडल हैं जिले के, और हम ही लोग होस्ट करते हैं पूरा डिस्ट्रिक्ट का पूरा प्लानिंग। उसके बाद हमारे यहाँ 10 अर्बन बॉडीज हैं, नगर पालिका, नगर पंचायत, और हमारे यहाँ 712 ग्राम सभाएं हैं। और ये सब स्वतंत्र निकाय हैं और इनकी सबकी अपनी अपनी जिम्मेदारियां हैं। तो हमने मैप किया ग्राम सभा की योजनाओं को, और उन मैप करके उनकी रेगुलरली हम लोग ट्रेनिंग और ब्रेन स्टॉर्मिंग और ये सब चलता रहता है। उसका नतीजा ये है कि करीब करीब हर एक गांव में ही हमारा इंटीग्रेटेड नेचुरल रिसोर्स मैनेजमेंट प्लान बना है, और वो काम करने की स्थिति में कुछ कुछ है। उसके अलावा अर्बन बॉडीज की मैप हमने किया, और अर्बन की थोड़ी स्कीम्स अलग हैं, लेकिन 15वां वित्त, 14वां वित्त और 5वां वित्त और चौथा वित्त, ये हमने सभी जगह पर टाइड फंड अब आया है, लेकिन टाइड फंड से पहले हमने डिस्ट्रिक्ट लेवल पर अलॉटमेंट करा लिया था कि 14वें वित्त और चौथे वित्त को हम एक हिस्सा वोटर पर खर्च करेंगे, और वोटर में भी हम सभी साइडों में काम करेंगे। तो एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव कुछ सिस्टम बनाए और एक प्रोजेक्ट यूनिट बनाई, और उसमें रेगुलरली जीआईएस मैपिंग और सब चीजें करने के बाद हम लोगों ने कंसल्टेशन के लिए मदद मांगी, क्योंकि हम उतने स्टैंडर्ड नहीं थे कि हम सब चीज़ों का कर सकते थे। तो WRG 2030 का सेक्रेटरीट हमारी रेगुलरली मदद करता है। तो ऑफिशियली हमने कंसल्टेशन बैठ के बुलाई, इंडिया वोटर पार्टनरशिप से भी हमने कंसल्टेशन बैठ के बुलाई, WWF से हमने आगे की चीज़ों के लिए की। तो ये कंसल्टेशन जो बैठ के आई, उन कंसल्टेशन बैठकों को हमने वहीं खत्म नहीं होने दिया, हम उसे इम्प्लीमेंटेशन तक ले गए। तो कंसल्टेशन में जो लोग आए और जो टेक्नोलॉजी सेलेक्ट हुई, उन टेक्नोलॉजीज को हमने अलग अलग के साथ कनेक्ट किया। किन्हीं को ग्राम सभाओं के साथ किया, क्योंकि जो अफोर्डेबल थी, सस्ती थी और इन सीटों की जा सकती थी, और उनकी स्कीम्स में फिट बैठती थी। और इस तरह से हमने नगर निगम में तो हमने ज्यादातर चीजें कर ली, और साथ में हमने एक इनोवेशन सेंटर भी शुरू किया। उसमें भारत सरकार ने ट्यूलिप करके एक योजना शुरू की है। तो ट्यूलिप में हमने 10 फ्रेश ग्रेजुएट और पोस्ट ग्रेजुएट्स लिए, जियोलॉजी से, बॉटनी से, जियोलॉजी से, और सब्जेक्ट एक्सेप्ट के रूप में हमने उन्हें लगाया कि वो हमारी रेगुलर मॉनिटरिंग और प्लानिंग और इसमें मदद करें पूरे जिले की। तो वो करते रहते हैं। तो इस तरह से जब हमने किया तो नतीजा ये निकला है सर कि तकरीबन 3 या 4 टेक्नोलॉजीज को हम इनोवेटिव कह सकते हैं। क्योंकि जैसे अलगढ़ मुस्लिम यूनिवर्सिटी से हमने मदद मांगी फटो रेमेडिएशन के लिए, क्योंकि हमारा जो वोटर का चीजें आया निकल करके, उसमें हमने 2 बड़ी बड़ी कैटेगरी शुरू में बनाई। जब मैप किया तो एक कैटेगरी था हमारा रिवर का, तो हमारी 3 रिवर्स हैं नगर निगम क्षेत्र में जो हमारी सीधे जिम्मेदारी है, जिनका BOD हमेशा 50 से ऊपर 200-250 तक जाता था। उसके अलावा हमारी अदर टोटल 22 रिवर्स हैं, जिनमें से कुछ डायरेक्ट यमुना की ट्रिब्यूटरी हैं और कुछ गंगा की ट्रिब्यूटरी हैं, जैसे सलोनी। तो उनमें पॉल्यूशन का लेवल उतना ज्यादा नहीं था। हमने इन्हें कैटेगराइज किया, और हमने स्प्रिंग्स को यानी हमारा जो शिवालिक का रीजन है, वहाँ जो हमारा लास्ट है जहाँ से उत्तराखंड शुरू होता है, वो हमारा वाटरशेड एरिया भी है। तो हमारा एक एक बूंद जो शिवालिक फॉरेस्ट में गिरता है, और उसका हमने माइक्रो मैपिंग किया है, और माइक्रो वाटरशेड के बाद मैक्रो वाटरशेड के साथ डिजाइन करके शिवालिक फॉरेस्ट डिवीजन के साथ अलग से, और सबके साथ हमने इंटीग्रेटेड डिसेंट्रलाइज प्लानिंग हम लोगों ने यहाँ बहुत सारी की है। तो हमारे पास 2 तरह की चीजें अभी मौजूद है। एक है वो पॉन्ड्स जो बिल्कुल फ्रेश है और जो एक्वाफर से कनेक्ट है, और वो पूरे साल में पानी रहता है। कुछ ऐसे हैं जिनमें पानी नहीं रहता है, कुछ ऐसे हैं रिवर है हमारी, रिवर में भी एक हिस्सा जो 39 किलोमीटर का एरिया था, उसमें से 30 किलोमीटर हम BOD लेस देन 3 से कम ले आए हैं। उसके लिए हमने ड्रेनेज मैपिंग की, उसके जो वेस्ट वाटर आता था उसका डाइवर्जन किया, बायोरेमेडिएशन की टेक्नोलॉजी 3-4 अवेलेबल थी, वो यूज की हमने नेचुरल सिस्टम्स पे। IIT दिल्ली से इसमें हमने मदद ली, और कई और ऑर्गेनाइजेशन से, कंपनी से मदद ली, और वो अफोर्डेबल हमारा बायोरेमेडिएशन का डाइवर्जन किया। ऑक्सीजनेशन बढ़ाने के लिए हमने ऑब्स्टेकल्स लगाए, और यकीन मानिए हमारे नालों में, जो हमारे बड़े बड़े नाले हैं, उनमें ऑक्सीजन 6 से लेकर के और 8 तक ऑक्सीजन रेगुलर है। और फिश जो हैं नाले में आधे, मतलब जो हमारे बड़े ड्रेन्स हैं उनमें 70% नालों में के हिस्सों में हमारी स्ट्रीम फिश अभी मौजूद हैं। वो आ गई हैं क्योंकि डिजॉल्व ऑक्सीजन के लिए हम लोगों ने मैकेनिकल कुछ सिस्टम्स भी लगाए, और जो भी बेस्ट पॉसिबल इनोवेटिव तरीके थे वो हम लोगों ने अपनाए और टेस्ट किए। तो उसका नतीजा ये निकला है कि अभी धमोला रिवर पे और नागदेई रिवर पे हम पे 5 करोड़ रुपए प्रति माह का जुर्माना की सोकोज आए थे। तो हमने यूपी पोल्यूशन कंट्रोल बोर्ड को, जल निगम को और कई थर्ड पार्टीज को हमने बुलाया, और बुला करके हमने उन सब के साथ इवोल्यूएशन कराया। इस इवोल्यूएशन को फिर डीएम साहब की तरफ से चीफ सेक्रेटरी साहब, हमारे यहाँ चीफ सेक्रेटरी साहब रेगुलर हर 15 दिन में स्वयं मॉनिटरिंग करते हैं चीज़ों की, और पोल्यूशन कंट्रोल बोर्ड के प्रमुख सचिव उसे देखते हैं। तो हमने उस पर, उन्होंने हमें कोर्ट की जो मॉनिटरिंग ओवरसाइट कमेटी है, उन्होंने हमें सुना, हमारे एविडेंसेस को देखा, और हमें पिछले महीने बरी किया, और हम पर जुर्माना अभी नहीं लगाया जा रहा है। तो हम अब सेकंड स्टेज में आ गए हैं कि हम इस सिचुएशन को बनाए रखें और पोल्यूशन लोड को और कम करें। अभी हम नॉर्म्स के अकॉर्डिंग आ गए हैं तीनों नदियों में, और हमें छोड़ा भी गया, ये एक अच्छी बात है। और ये सब हमने जो किया है, ये सभी ने इसमें सभी स्टेक होल्डर्स ने काम किया है, ग्राम सभाओं ने काम किया है, ग्राम सचिवों ने किया है, टीएस ने किया है, और जिसका जो हमने जो पाया प्रैक्टिकली वो ये है कि फंड्स की कोई कमी हमारे यहाँ नहीं है, स्कीम्स की भी कोई कमी नहीं है, बहुत ज्यादा स्कीम्स है हमारे पास, गाइडलाइंस की भी कोई कमी नहीं है, ट्रेनिंग मटेरियल की भी कोई कमी नहीं है। सिर्फ एक चीज हमने महसूस की कि वो था हमारा जो फ्रंट लाइन वर्कर है, जैसे नरेगा के जो हमारे टेक्निकल असिस्टेंट्स हैं, हम उनकी रेगुलर महीने में कम से कम 2 बार कुछ तो मास्टर ट्रेनर्स हो गए हैं। तो इंटीग्रेटेड नेचुरल रिसोर्स मैनेजमेंट प्लानिंग की हम लोग रेगुलर उनकी ट्रेनिंग कराते हैं, अच्छे लोगों को देते हैं, और वो अब भुवन पर काम कर पाते हैं, सब कर रहे हैं। और जो मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ जल शक्ति ने अभी अपना पोर्टल बनाया है GIS का, वो एक्सेस कर पाते हैं। तो हमने जो प्रैक्टिकली पाया, जो हमारे इंजीनियर्स थे, चाहे वो एग्जीक्यूटिव इंजीनियर अर्बन बॉडी है, चाहे हमारे नगर निगम के टीम ऑफ इंजीनियर्स हैं डिफरेंट, चाहे वो ग्राम सभा में TA और इंजीनियर्स हैं, हमने उन्हें स्ट्रेंथन किया कि वो एस्टिमेशन करें, और पायलट प्रोजेक्ट के रूप में जो गाइडलाइंस नेशनल वाटर मिशन ने दिया है, और जो इंटीग्रेटेड नेचुरल रिसोर्स मैनेजमेंट का जो आपका मटेरियल है वीडियो के रूप में, उसके लिए हम लोगों ने एक मास्टर ट्रेनर्स की टीम बनाई हुई है। वो मास्टर ट्रेनर्स रेगुलर ट्रेनिंग देते रहते हैं, ऑनलाइन सपोर्ट करते रहते हैं, और हम माइक्रो वाटरशेड के लेवल तक उस फॉर्मेट में जो वाटर बजटिंग रहता है हमारा, या जो हमारा नेचुरल रिसोर्स मैनेजमेंट रहता है, या हमारा GPDP के फॉर्मेट्स हैं, उसकी गाइडलाइंस हैं, उनके अकॉर्डिंग हम ये कर पा रहे हैं। तो हमने बस इतना किया है कि हमने गैप्स को फिल किया है नगर निगम की बाउंड्री से बाहर जाकर के, क्योंकि हमारे यहाँ जो पानी आता है वो शिवालिक से आता है, उसे शुरू में पोल्यूट कर देते थे, अब तो कहूंगा मैं, तो अभी कम कर रहे हैं, पोल्यूशन लोड बहुत कम है, बहुत कम, मतलब नॉर्म्स के अकॉर्डिंग है। कहीं कहीं हम बहुत बाथिंग स्टैंडर्ड ले आए हैं, क्लास B का वाटर, कहीं कहीं पीने का पानी हमारे पास अवेलेबल है, आइडेंटिफाइड है, हम उसका कंजर्वेशन कर रहे हैं। अब जहां जहां हमारे पास फ्रेश, चाहे स्प्रिंग्स हैं, चाहे हमारे पास पोन्ड्स हैं, चाहे हमारे पास रिवर के फर्स्ट ऑर्डर ड्रेन्स हैं, वो हम कंजर्वेशन कर रहे हैं, और उसमें हमने फॉरेस्ट को पूरा एक सिस्टम बनाया है, फॉरेस्ट वाले रेगुलरली उसे देखते हैं, और उसमें हम स्पीसीज रिचनेस बढ़ाने के लिए पायलट प्रोजेक्ट के रूप में बायोडाइवर्सिटी पार्क्स हम बना रहे हैं, और वो किसी स्टेजेस में है, मतलब हम फील्ड पर हमारा काम चल रहे हैं। और हम जो बैरन लैंड्स हैं या फ्लड प्लेन्स की लैंड है, तो फ्लड प्लेन रेस्टोरेशन का काम चल रहा है, बटरफ्लाई रेस्टोरेशन और ब्रीडिंग की टेक्नोलॉजी हमारे कुछ रिसर्चर ग्रुप्स ने की है। तो हमने इसमें यूथ्स को टूलिप से कनेक्ट किया है, बड़े ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस को हमने WRG के थ्रू, FRI को, WII को, इंडिया वाटर पार्टनरशिप को, इंडिया वाटर पार्टनरशिप से भी हम लोग रेगुलर मदद लेते हैं और वो हमारी प्लानिंग में भी काम करते हैं। तो हमने सबको इंटीग्रेट किया, फिल इन द ब्लैंक किया, और उसके नतीजे ये हैं कि हम ये कह सकते हैं कि जो नीति आयोग, जो सर आपका डॉक्यूमेंट है, हमारे जिले ने, डिस्ट्रिक्ट सहारनपुर ने उसे पढ़ा है, और नरेगा में जो 180, 100 कुछ जो आपके किए हैं, उसमें से कुछ हमने पायलट प्रोजेक्ट में बनाए हैं, और जिलाधिकारी महोदय की अध्यक्षता और नगरायुक्त साहब की अध्यक्षता में हम लोगों ने ये रखा है कि हम ये 180 जितने भी आपके हैं और जो इनोवेटिव हो सकते हैं दूसरे, उनका एक एक पायलट प्रोजेक्ट आपको हमारे डिस्ट्रिक्ट में मिले। कि हमारे यहाँ सारे सिनेरियो मौजूद हैं वाटरशेड के, यानी हमारे पास फर्स्ट ऑर्डर ट्रिब्यूटरीज हैं, हमारे पास क्लीन वाटर सोर्सेज हैं, हमारे पास एक्वाफर्स हैं, हमारे एक तरफ गंगा है, एक तरफ यमुना है, यमुना एकदम हमारी बाउंड्री लेवल पर है, हमारे पास सबसे खराब नदी हिंडन मौजूद है और उसकी भी सबसे ज्यादा ट्रिब्यूटरी, तो वेस्ट वाटर ट्रीटमेंट सिस्टम्स, और इवन जो SDG का जो फ्रेमवर्क है, हमने SDG के फ्रेमवर्क को गांव के लेवल तक हम ले गए और उनके फंड्स मैप करके, और जो टाइड फंड है, अब तो कोई प्रॉब्लम ज्यादा नहीं रही है, वो टाइड फंड हमने अपने जिले में पिछले साल कर लिया था डिस्ट्रिक्ट लेवल पर अपनी बैठकों में। तो ये सर एक इंटीग्रेटेड है, और रेगुलरली मॉनिटरिंग के लिए यूपी पोल्यूशन कंट्रोल बोर्ड से रेगुलर मॉनिटरिंग कराई जाती है, उसी का सर्टिफिकेशन होता है, और वही हमारा सर्टिफिकेट भी रहता है यूपी पोल्यूशन कंट्रोल बोर्ड का, क्योंकि उसे कोर्ट भी मानता है, जिलाधिकारी महोदय भी मानते हैं, और बाहर के लोग भी। और थर्ड पार्टी इवैल्यूएशन के लिए हमने यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ शिकागो का एक कुछ नए इनोवेटिव तरीके हैं जो वो WRG ने दिए थे, कुछ जगहों पर वो कर रहे हैं, कुछ हमने अपनी कुछ यूथ्स की एनवायरमेंटल साइंस के लिए हैं, वो कुछ कर रहे हैं, कुछ कंपनीज हैं क्वालिटी वाली, एस वाटर और ये उन्हें हमने इन्वॉल्व किया है। तो ये सब सर अफोर्डेबल है, सस्टेनेबल है। तो हम सर इस स्टेज में यहाँ हैं, तो थोड़ा सा मतलब हम ये कह सकते हैं कि ग्राउंड वाटर में हमारी सफलता ये है सर, कि आउटकम ये है कि बलिया खेड़ी ब्लॉक हमारा इन सब साझी इंटरवेंशन का नतीजा ये हुआ है कि बलिया खेड़ी ब्लॉक को एक लेवल हम ऊपर ले आए हैं। अब वो ओवर एक्सप्लॉइटेड नहीं है, उसके नीचे आ गया है एक्सप्लॉइटेड में। तो ग्राउंड वाटर वाले रेगुलरली जब जिले की बैठक होती है तो सब लोग एक स्नैपशॉट देते हैं, और ग्राउंड वाटर वाले अपना स्नैपशॉट देते हैं कि ये जो डिजिटल पीजोमीटर्स लगे हैं हमारे जिले में, हमारे यहाँ काम कर रहे हैं, और जिलाधिकारी महोदय के समक्ष जब रखा जाता है तो हम यहाँ से शुरू करते हैं कि सर हम इस ब्लॉक में हमारा ये पानी है, बरसात में ये पानी था, पिछली बार ये पानी था, ये जो हमने धामोला रिवर पर जो शिवालिक में हमने जो चेक डैम्स बनाए हैं फ्रेश वाटर के लिए, उसका जो माइनर इरिगेशन ने बनाए हैं, ग्राम सभा ने बनाई हैं, बहुत सारे अलग अलग एग्रीकल्चर में सोयल एंड जो आपका हमारा रहता है भूमि संरक्षण, उसने कुछ बनाए हैं, उन सब का साझा ये रिजल्ट आ रहा है कि बलिया खेड़ी ब्लॉक को हम एक ले आए, और बाकी के लिए हम प्लानिंग कर रहे हैं। हमारे पास एक एक बूंद को हमने मैप किया है, और उस मैप के बाद हम इस पर आगे बढ़ रहे हैं। सर ये एक सिनेरियो है, बाकी आप लोग जो हमें निर्देश देंगे, और जो पायलट प्रोजेक्ट कोई भी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन देश का या कोई भी नीति निर्धारक हमारे जिले को चुने, हम उसे चुनौती के रूप में लेंगे सर। और हमारे यहाँ एक बेहतरीन जिलाधिकारी महोदय, नगरायुक्त महोदय, ग्राम सभा, ग्राम सचिव, सब लोग एक मतलब एक अच्छे माहौल में, बर्डन के रूप में नहीं, हमसे चुनौती के रूप में।
थैंक यू जी। आपका जो काम है, जिस तरह से आपने एक्सप्लेन किया है, ये बिल्कुल आइडियल मॉडल है, काबिल तारीफ है। आपने जितने पायलट्स किए हैं, जितना आपने इंटीग्रेटेड स्कीम्स किए हैं, कन्वर्जेंस आपने दिखाया है, मॉनिटरिंग दिखाया है, अप्रूवल मॉनिटरिंग और थर्ड पार्टी इवैल्यूएशन, ये बहुत ही अच्छा मॉडल होगा। मैं एक प्लीज म्यूट, मैं एक प्रश्न पूछूंगा डॉक्टर उमैर साहब से। ये जो पायलट्स हैं
सर,
इनका अगर हम रेप्लिकेशन सोचा जाए, क्योंकि डॉक्टर साहब आपने तो बिल्कुल डीपली इसमें काम किया है, आप तो इसमें पायनियर हैं। अगर हम सोचें कि ठीक है, सहारनपुर ने तो ये बहुत अच्छा काम किया है, बट प्रॉब्लम्स डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स में अलग में भी हैं, इसकी रेप्लिकेशन कैसे हो सकती है और इसमें स्केल कैसे कर सकते हैं?
सर इस वाले मुद्दे में हमने सब जगह हमारे यहाँ स्केलिंग हुई है सर। तो हमने क्या किया, जैसे हमारे यहाँ ग्राम सभा एक है, तो ग्राम सभा के लेवल सबसे कम फंड होता है ऐसा माना जाता है, लेकिन मैंने ये पाया कि वहाँ सबसे ज्यादा फंड है हमारे पास इस काम के लिए, ज्यादा गाइडलाइंस है, ज्यादा चीजें हैं। तो जैसे एक ग्राम सभा को हमने मॉडल के रूप में लिया, उसके एक ड्रेन को हमने लिया और उस ड्रेन पर जो टेक्नोलॉजी टेस्ट की गई और सस्टेन की गई उसे हमने 312 ग्राम सभा शामली और 712 ग्राम सभा में स्केलिंग अप के लिए दे दिया। तो तकरीबन कहीं कहीं 15, 20, 25 जगह वो हो गया है स्केल अप। उसके अलावा जो अर्बन बॉडी वाला है, अर्बन में हमने नगर निगम में हम पहले वेटलैंड प्लानिंग करते हैं, जो चीजें करते जाते हैं वो हमारी 10 अर्बन बॉडी शामली में है और 10 अर्बन बॉडी सहारनपुर में है। तो दोनों डिस्ट्रिक्ट में ये 10 की 10 अर्बन बॉडी फाटो रेमिडिएशन के मॉडल्स, जैसे बनत है तो बनत ने अपना इन्वेस्टमेंट तकरीबन 1.5 करोड़ रुपए का रखा है इस बार, और टोटल हमने पूरे जिले का 10-12 करोड़ का डिसेंट्रलाइज हमारा था। तो वो लास्ट स्टेज में क्या, अभी वर्किंग स्टेज में हम हैं और वो सब भी जुर्माने सी चीजों से बच भी पा रहे हैं और फुलफिल कर रहे हैं कि हम रिवर कृष्णी को जाने वाली चीजों को रोकें। तो स्केल अप बड़े लेवल पर नगर निगम में हमने जो मॉडल अपनाया वो पिछले महीने नगर निगम गाजियाबाद ने अपना लिया है और नगर निगम गाजियाबाद ने एक अनुभाग बना दिया है एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव रिफॉर्म्स के लिए, जैसे नगर निगम सहारनपुर ने किया है। तो वहाँ नगरायुक्त महोदय बहुत एक्टिव हैं और जो चीजें करने में हमें सालों यहाँ लगे हैं डेवलप करते वक्त, वो वहाँ दिनों में हो रही हैं। तो नगर निगम गाजियाबाद में ये सब हो रहा है। तो डिस्ट्रिक्ट लेवल पर 2 डिस्ट्रिक्ट मतलब शामली और सहारनपुर में हुआ है। ग्राम सभा के लेवल पे सहारनपुर ग्राम और इसकी ग्राम सभाओं में अलग अलग पायलट्स हैं और अर्बन बॉडीज में 10 नगर पालिका नगर पंचायत में है। और एक और इम्पोर्टेंट बात सर, हमने जो रिजर्व फॉरेस्ट होता है, क्योंकि सिविल लैंड में तो ये चारों प्लेयर्स मेजर होते हैं, लेकिन सिविल लैंड में फॉरेस्ट लैंड में रिजर्व फॉरेस्ट है या सेंचुरीज हैं या वो हैं, वहाँ का बड़ा टिपिकल सा रहता है और जो उसकी बाउंड्री लाइन होती है वहाँ अलग तरह की चीजें होती हैं। तो यहाँ पर भी हमने एक कोऑर्डिनेटेड प्रोजेक्ट बनाया है जहाँ सिविल और फॉरेस्ट के लोग और सिविल और फॉरेस्ट एक साथ मिल करके एक इंटीग्रेटेड अप्रोच के साथ हमारे यहाँ काम कर रहे हैं। तो रिजर्व फॉरेस्ट का भी हमारा सहारनपुर में चल रहा है, छोटा पैचेज रिजर्व का हमारा शामली में है। तो वहाँ हमारा एक बायोडायवर्सिटी बटरफ्लाई रेस्टोरेशन वाला प्रोजेक्ट चल रहा है और उसमें तकरीबन 100 से ज्यादा स्पीसीज को सभी स्टेक होल्डर्स से हमने पौधे लिए हैं। हमने एक और मैं आपको बता दूं, नगर निगम में आईटीसी हमारा सीएसआर से बहुत मदद करता है। आईटीसी पूरा पोंड रीजनेशन में उनका एनआरएम के कई लोग हैं हमारे साथ, वो डे नाइट काम करते हैं, वाटर यूजर्स पे काम करते हैं। तो सीएसआर में वो अपना फंड से करते हैं, हम बस अपने यहाँ से संसाधन उन्हें देते हैं। वो बहुत आइडियल वर्क कर रहे हैं, मेजरेबल कर रहे हैं। तो हमारी जो कंपनी है आईटी, जो हमारे प्रीमाइजेज में आईटीसी है, आईटीसी से ये चाहूंगा कि वो लोग आगे सीएसआर वालों को आगे बढ़ा दें। जैसे आपने हमारे यहाँ ग्राउंड वाटर रिचार्जिंग पे इन्होंने बहुत सर मेजरेबल काम हमारे यहाँ हुआ है और हो रहा है अभी भी। तो एक इंटीग्रेटेड मॉडल में हमारा कंपनीज हैं, इंडस्ट्री के पार्टनर्स हैं, सबके साथ हम कर रहे हैं और रिप्लिकेट कर रहे हैं। तो सारे मॉडल रिप्लिकेबल है। तो मेरी सर अनिल जी आपसे रिक्वेस्ट है और मैंने कई बार मेल भी की है और जब भी फोन पे बात हुई है मैंने ये कहा है सर, राधाकृष्णन जी भी हैं, कि आप इसका एक डॉक्यूमेंट बना दें कि अलग अलग पायलट का, कि जैसे एक ग्राम सभा जो कर सकती है अपने फंड से, अपनी गाइडलाइन से, अपनी नीतियों में, वो देश की सारी कर सकती है थोड़ा चेंजेस करके। लेकिन पार्टिकुलर जो सिनेरियो हमारे यहाँ है उस सिनेरियो में तो एकदम हम रिप्लिकेट कर सकते हैं और नगर निगम में भी उस सिनेरियो में हम रिप्लिकेट कर सकते हैं जो हमारा है। और इस वाला जो और बाकी सिनेरियो में जो काम हुए हैं वो आप हमें दे दीजिए, हम अपने यहाँ रिप्लिकेट कर लेंगे। ये था सर।
बहुत अच्छा। और आपने जो बहुत बताया रेप्लिकेशन का, बहुत विद इन सहारनपुर डिस्ट्रिक्ट और क्रॉस डिस्ट्रिक्ट इनटू गाजियाबाद, ये इसकी प्रशंसा करनी होगी। दिस इज द वे इट शुड गो। रेप्लिकेशन लीड्स टू स्केल। यू आर शोइंग दिस। और आपने जो सजेशन दी है कि इसका मॉडल बनाया जाए, इसके केस स्टडी बनाया जाए, कि इसकी कोई रेप्लिकेशन प्रोसेस में जैसे आपने बताया सिंप्लीफाई हो जाए, so that others can copy. We'll certainly work with you on that. Or so both of you, thank you so much for your excellent work, and we'll continue to support you in this. I'd like to now turn to Mr. Suresh Rohila, because what we have last heard is very relevant to what the work that the Center for Science and Environment, CSE, is doing. We've known CSE for a number of years. We know Dr. Rohila for many years, and CSE has been championing a decentralized wastewater treatment through case studies, through knowledge seminars, through capacity building, through technology promotion. So this leads exactly into the work that he's been doing. So may I request Sureshi to talk about the work that you've been doing and how it's led to decentralized wastewater treatment being promoted.
Thank you. Thank you, Anilji, for giving me a chance to share our experience. और मैं हिंदी और इंग्लिश दोनों में ही बोलूँगा, जिस तरह का भी मिक्स एनवायरनमेंट है. I direct the water program at CSC over a decade now, and almost 15 years ago, CSC had started doing some research, and our research findings showed that the centralized systems or the centralized approach is a major hurdle in achieving our targets, whether it was MDG or SDG, or even the target for safe water to all and sustainable sanitation to all. We had published the book before that called Dying Wisdom, which documented that there were decentralized water management systems in place, and communities used to have a role to play in that. However, post-independence, more in urban areas, basically, there has been institutionalization of water, and water bureaucracy has come into place. And there is a big political economy of water, which likes that big is beautiful. And what we also found that in the urban area, there was a research which was undertaken for 72 cities of different size. And we found that, I will be talking more about urban experience, that 72 different size cities, when we took the research, we found that every city had an unwritten rule that more and more as the city grows, if it is a village which becomes town and town becomes a city, city becomes metropolis, you start bringing water from faraway places. You forget your local resources like ponds, lakes, and any other in situ augmentation measures. And you talk about long distance transfer. This was an unwritten rule, but this is also written in every DPR, actually, if you really have to look. And for the sewage, it was the same thing, that outside the city, either near a river or outside the city, there is a pipeline which takes the sewage and dumps it outside if there is a sewage network, or that sewage or wastewater is just dumped and there is no value to that. And also the realization was that there was no value attached to that. That's why also things were not happening, and nobody was asking people to pay for water. Actually, today also nobody asks people to pay for water. Only we ask people to a fraction of the distribution costs. So the entire water and sanitation paradigm, which is centralized, which is high cost, which has high energy cost, high chemicals which are used, pumping cost which is required, is basically highly subsidized sector. And there is also a realization that though we have been championing the cause for decentralized water management, which includes wastewater management, and at CSC head office 12 years ago, we have, in spite of being connected to a sewer network, we have gone off grid and we treat our own wastewater and we reuse the treated wastewater. And that was that first we have to walk the talk. So we have shown that this can be done, that within the city, in spite of being connected to sewage network, we have reduced our footprint and we have become a water neutral campus. That is one thing. However, as we got this study called Excreta Matter released by the Vice President of India, we also realized that, this whole thing, as a reactive and curative measure, what we have done, that in spite of that, we were part of a city and we have redesigned system. We also thought that there is a need for the change at which the scale at which the change has to happen is big, and we do not have the capacities. Even if we had a policy today to say that from tomorrow all the cities, all the human settlements will do decentralized wastewater management, it will not happen. And frankly, if you look at decentralized wastewater treatment, it is basically approach. It is not a technology or a concept, I would say. For example, a decentralized wastewater management in Delhi mean that if anybody is doing even a 10 MLT plant is a decentralized system. But in a village which or a ward, if somebody wants to do a decentralized system for 10 houses or 50 households, that is a decentralized system, which the figures will not go into million liters. They will be small. We are very sure that there is a challenge of scale, there is a challenge of capacity, and there is a challenge of political economy where water is free. For example, we have our own another campus which is located 120 kilometers from Delhi, which is used for a big capacity building initiative to scale up the capacity requirement for mainstreaming these good practices, which is in Alwar, which is overexploited block, and we are totally off grid. We treat sewage for 40 KLD and reuse it on campus. We reuse it for gardening purposes, and we have demonstrated. And we have run over a decade now training programs and created a community of practitioners of around 5,000 people, which includes 50% of government officials as well as 50% of practitioners, engineers, architects, and other people. And I should say that we are seeing this change happen. And we have also chosen high visibility, high impact areas. We have actually chosen Hunter to do the job of conservation. We have installed decentralized wastewater system in the Delhi Jal Board headquarters building in Delhi. And they have come back to us and they have asked us to do another one in Lajpat Nagar residential colony of Delhi Jal Board. So we have taken the most difficult task, high visibility, high impact intervention areas as model projects. We have monitored over a period of time. We have shown the results. As a result, today in Delhi, I can tell you that Lothi Gardens has a decentralized wastewater treatment plant of 500 KLD. Nehru Park has a sewage treatment plant of 5 lakh liters per day, which is treated and reused. Rose Garden in Moti Bagh has 1 lakh liters wastewater being treated and reused. And if you really want to talk about potential of decentralized water and wastewater management, Delhi has around 16,000 parks, which has around 8,000 hectares of area under it. You may say that Delhi is fully built up, but I, as a trained planner, and also having worked in water over long 25 years now, I can say there is enough area and enough opportunities within the existing urban areas where you can harness the potential of in situ augmentation, either through rainwater harvesting, which is at building level, or stormwater harvesting at macro level. And also, in addition to the 16,000 parks and 8,000 hectares under these parks, there are 629 water bodies, which are as on date also, which are recipient of sewage. So these are all the big numbers which I wanted to throw that, and I was just reading a newspaper clipping where NDMC area in Delhi is saying that they need 40 million gallons liter water per day to actually water the 240 kilometers of roadside green areas. If in cities, town and cities across the country, if we really want to see that where is the market for that decentralized treated wastewater and local reuse, this is where the market is. You can actually, you don't need to treat the wastewater to the highest tertiary level and talk about saying that it should be fit for drinking purposes. But there are not non-potable uses of water, bulk water uses in urban areas, which should be the core target focus area. I'm sure the speaker after me will talk about big approaches also, where we have done, lake rejuvenation by treating wastewater and filling those lakes with, wastewater also. There are many other interventions are happening at different scales. So what we have done is we have devised an approach where we have said we call it water and sanitation sensitive design and planning. Until and unless we do intervention at the preventive level, reactive and curative, all these pilots will remain. I always say pilots don't fail and pilots don't scale, because there are several costs which are taken care by many donors or CSR funds and likewise. They never become mainstream idea. Also, many times in the pilots, individuals play an important role. So we are building capacities, we are developing processes, we are creating enabling frameworks. We have developed a web compendium which is accessible to all. We put together case studies of decentralized wastewater management. People can also contribute in that web compendium. It is called Mount. menu of unnetworked technologies. Anybody who is interested can Google and find out that. We have developed another web compendium. Now everybody is digital, even school children are on digital information. So that's called a compendium for green infrastructure network system. Basically, green and blue spaces basically are considered to be infrastructure. And all these parks, for example, I'm using an example of Delhi, only 5% of the area, if it is used for rainwater harvesting and decentralized wastewater treatment for local reuse. In Delhi, 50% of the total demand of water can be reduced for the water which comes from long distance transfer. And there is a huge potential and there is a huge market of local reuse of water. I think I would stop here. I did not have any presentation because I thought it was a panel discussion, but I would be happy to answer any questions if as a moderator, you or if any participant in this webinar would like to ask me. And we are involved and we have a community of practice around 5,000 plus people who are championing, and we have around 100 projects listed in this mount. These projects are high visibility, high impact projects. In Delhi, government has announced 200 decentralized wastewater treatment systems. Some have started coming up, as I gave you the number. I think 40 more are there planned in this year. But only thing is that everything is being done. Even the previous case study was being told that it was NGT which made people think. It was the cities not doing or commissioners acting or many people coming up because NGT is monitoring. But it should be part of our planning process as we design settlements, as we design infrastructure. This should be a preventive approach to that. Otherwise, we will, if we keep on doing, first we do the damage and we try to restore it. That's a costly cycle again. Resources are again, I would see, drained out. So over here, I will stop here. Thank you, Anil.
Thank you very much. Great repository of information, resources, and capacity for promoting these decentralized treatments. I think this should be disseminated much more. Question, Sureshi, what do you think have been your main challenges as to why different states have not adopted these decentralized solutions? What are the challenges you've been facing?
One is that there is no cost to water. Actually, nobody knows what is the cost of water, what it is produced and what he's getting. For example, in Delhi, I get 20,000 liters free water. Why will I adopt a decentralized approach? And for example, in the parks in Delhi, there was continuously over extraction of groundwater, and Malis were using the water, and they would just leave the pipes like this. And there's no value of water. If you attach a value to that, people will come. Why do you, if you have a gold ring or bangle, why do you keep it safe? Because you know the value of that particular precious resource. So there is no value at the moment. I have been working in the area of water for 25 years. Even I don't know the 1,000 liters of water which I get. How much does it cost? What is the production cost? Nobody tells me. Nobody tells anybody. So why would you do these innovation in practice and innovation approach until unless you tell them that you will never have sustainable water supply systems? Today, not even a single city in India has 24/7 water supply. So people have to start talking about how much does it cost to produce water. In 5 years, CSC has done research. The electricity cost has gone by 30%. This all results in unsustainable water supply and sanitation system because all our centralized systems are dependent on electricity. We are extracting more and more groundwater, going deeper and deeper. We are bringing water from far away. I think biggest challenge is the cost of water nobody understands in the political economy. As a pilot project, it's good that some people try to do, but they will never scale because on the other side, the mainstream idea it does not become. So few states have taken up, like Delhi has taken up this challenge, a few others have, but it is not across years. I agree that this is the big challenge that the central and states. Today also it is said that only 20% of the wastewater should be reused under the national urban guidelines, which is there, the recent guidelines in the Swachh Bharat and all that. Cities are being told. And when you started, I was very surprised when you said that we should use the example of Singapore. No, we should not use the example of Singapore. I always say that we should use the example of Agra. Agra gets only the sewage from Delhi and it treats the sewage, and Agra reuses that water as sewage. So we don't talk about our own experience. We talk about other experiences. Agra only gets sewage from Delhi in the centralized system, and Agra treats sewage. Agra, instead of having a water treatment plant, it has a sewage treatment plant, and it treats the water and supplies to their citizens. But we will never talk about this actually. So sorry about this, but this is an example which I would like to say.
No, fair enough. I think we should mention Agra clearly, but I was just giving you an example of where you can get to. And internationally, I would say Singapore and maybe Israel would be the two ones where
the story of every town gets the sewage only because there is nothing left in the river. It is only disposed of as sewage. Okay.
So certainly, so one is you mentioned this main issue being the pricing. I would say, certainly valuing water, and the other driver that's coming through now per force is scarcity. I think that is becoming apparent now to people that you won't have water. And
one more thing I'll highlight is there is an underestimated and unaccounted role of groundwater, because with the land, people get the groundwater, and people will not go for decentralized treatment of wastewater and reuse because groundwater is a resource available. With the land, they get the ownership of groundwater. And if you really look at Delhi, for example, Delhi and this is one example I use it because I have done even my entire 20 years as well as my research, PhD research. If Delhi is supplying 850 million liters water per day, but the sewage generated is 1500 million liters per day. So why is sewage more than the water supplied? So it is basically the groundwater which is used by people to meet the demand supply gap. So across the country, this is a common phenomenon. So there is a link between the land and the water and groundwater and surface water. Till the time that is not understood, you cannot promote decentralized wastewater management.
So fair enough. We take your point there, and I think the fact that the compliance is there, sometimes you need a stick. I remember when simple case of seatbelts. Nobody would wear seatbelts unless there was a stick. Now everyone wears seatbelts because they know it's for their own safety. So there is a process of stick and carrot and realization. I think that has to be clearly developed more strongly. And the fact that Saharanpur can say, look, there was no fine, we were fully compliant. These are good models to also bring out. And in terms of pricing versus valuing, in terms of pricing water versus pricing the delivery cost of water, I think that segmentation is important to have before it is clearly going to come down. The new water policy mentions this. Let's see how it plays out. So
every water bill should be printing the cost of water. You can give free, but you should print the cost of water. Then only you will ask from bureaucrats, politicians saying that what should be the, if we want sustainable water services, then we'll have to pay for the cost of water, isn't it?
Yes. And the cost of water services, if you put that, it is a better way of putting it.
They have to show the price. They can
correct.
Free,
The price so I think we won't go into details there, but in the pricing of water services, certainly is something that can be mentioned. But thank you for that. I think we'll now go to the next panelist, Mr. S. Vishwanath, who is the advisor for Biome Environment Trust. He's a water conservation expert himself, and he's been working on water and environment for a number of years, including now director of Biome Environmental Solutions, which is a firm specializing in sustainable design and of community level water and sanitation solutions. Dr. Vishwanath.
Okay, thank you, Anilji. I'm just plain Mr. Vishwanath. I have a long beard. It makes me look like a doctor, but I'm not one. Just to clarify the situation, people work very hard to get a PhD and they go through severe mental stress. I don't want to usurp that position. I hope my screen is visible to you.
It is.
All right. So I'll just quickly run you through some photographs similar to Dr. Suresh Rohila. I was sort of geared for a panel discussion, but as I was listening into the conversations, I put together some ideas. And very briefly and very quickly, because this is the last of the speaker slot, I'll share some of the things that are happening across India with used water, which is very exciting and which shows great potential. So I won't call it wastewater, call it used water as a terminology. Just as an example, the town of Tumkur, which is about 70 kilometers from Bangalore, a lot of it on-plot sanitation system, but off-site system, they have a sewage network. They're quickly working to expand it. It's a town of 4 lakh population. And what does it do with its wastewater? What's happening to it, right? So it's putting in place a huge sewage network. It's putting in place a new sewage treatment plant. But currently, the city has, as you see on the left, a small wastewater treatment plant, which is aerated oxidation pond. It's a basic treatment plant. it's designed for about 20.75 MLD. It's getting around 10 to 12 MLD only, though it's been designed about 15, 20 years back. The key interest to me is what happens to this treated wastewater. In the terminology of the CPCB, this wastewater is unused, right? It's not being used. And so therefore, the question arises as to what do we mean by usage of wastewater or used water? Next to the oxidation point are two lakes, which is you draw in circles, Bhimasandra Lake and Melekote Lake. The treated wastewater from that STP, from this floating aerator, goes to these two lakes and keeps it full throughout the year, right? And then there's the miracle. And this is what is very interesting about India, small town India, large village India, is that it ties itself up to agricultural reuse, right? So the farmers around these two lakes, which are next to the wastewater treatment plant, grow a crop called Bajaj, which is Acorus calamus, a sweet flag as it's called. It's a very prized medicinal crop. Around 250 acres of Bajaj absorbs all the wastewater which Tumkur town generates, right? And it's a wetland crop. It has great medicinal value, like I put it, and it sells for between 7,000 rupees to 9,000 rupees a quintal, and about 36 to 40 quintals an acre. So a farmer can get about 3.6 lakh rupees per acre, right? So not a drop of wastewater from Tumkur goes anywhere to the environment. It goes on land. Farmers use it, convert it to a livelihood, convert it to a medicinal crop, and convert it to cash for their systems. All towns and cities in India can become water factories and fertilizer factories given two conditions. One, that we separate industrial wastewater, and two, we treat the domestic sewage to adequate levels for farming or agricultural practice, right? We don't have to obsess with the recent guidelines of the NGT and the CPCB, which says P less than 1 and total N less than 10. These are standards for Singapore and Israel. For India, we'll have to develop fit-for-purpose standards, and we'll have to try and link urban wastewater with agriculture as much as possible, because that's the low entropy design system, right? So this is what farmers are doing. This is the Bajaj, Acorus calamus, as you can see. It's an annual crop, so it demands water throughout the year. And so therefore, every drop of wastewater that Tumkur generates is absorbed by this 230 acres of land. Therefore, the farmer's field is the polishing pond or the polishing land or the tertiary treatment land. And the question arises, should the farmers pay for the wastewater, or should the town pay the farmers for treating the wastewater to the requisite standards? And so it's a nice dilemma to come into, but which can be resolved. Things to do: minimize health risks by better irrigation practices, such as furrow irrigation or drip irrigation. Minimize environmental risks by making sure that only that amount of wastewater is applied so that it doesn't percolate and pollute groundwater. In this particular case, groundwater is at about 800 feet, so there's no pollution of groundwater. What is therefore required is a public health approach to management of wastewater and an agricultural expertise in management of wastewater to see what kind of crops can be grown, because this is not only treated wastewater, but also untreated wastewater, which the town is unable to capture in its sewerage network. A combination of both is going to the farmer's field and then is treating it. So wonderful examples, which if we look around our cities and towns to see how farmers are dealing with wastewater. So what does the Bajaj cultivation do? It provides economic livelihoods to farmers, but it also provides employment to women, right? And so this is unseasonal employment in the sense that this Bajaj is cultivated from January, February, March, which is not the season for paddy or wheat or ragi or any of the other crops. So these women have assured work for 90 to 100 days in the fields of Bajaj. So how do we tie wastewater to agriculture and to what is an employment guarantee scheme is one way of looking at wastewater, right? So this is a bit of example. Wages 300 to 350 rupees. An acre of Bajaj demands 20 wage laborers. So there's a steady economic benefit which is generated from wastewater. In our imagination of wastewater, we should not restrict it to industrial reuse and urban reuse. We should also look at agricultural reuse of wastewater, which should be the dominant narrative for us in the Indian context, because agriculture is suffering from lack of water. Another example that I wanted to share with you is that even at individual homes, if we integrate architecture and simple public health systems, grey water treatment becomes easy. You can treat grey water on the rooftop with a small reed system. The only question is, we have to ask ourselves, how do we modify our detergents and soaps to be more eco-friendly? Luckily for us, we are getting eco-friendly soaps based out of soap nuts and soap berries. And somewhere along the line, we'll have to look at better soaps and detergents and making it the standard so that our grey water quality improves and our wastewater quality improves. We cannot be dumping huge amounts of phosphate and lab and then expect our wastewater treatment plants to be treating it. But it's possible at an individual household level. And then, designing it, the rooftop itself becomes your sewage treatment plant or grey water treatment plant. You design it for a stepped gravity system, treat it and reuse it if possible on the terrace itself. So terrace gardening is picking up in urban India, and treated grey water is ideal for terrace gardening or rooftop gardening, and you can even grow paddy if possible on the rooftop if you're so inclined, right? So there's no waste, it's only a misplaced resource, and how we integrate it with design will determine how India manages its wastewater. So master plans and building bylaws can also facilitate this process. What can we do at a slightly larger scale? Let me come to at a community scale, a gated community, which is about 36 acres. Now, this is ground plus one kind of a development. This is on the outskirts of Bangalore. It's called Rainbow Drive. What they've done is, apart from pricing water, metering it, and making sure that rainwater harvesting happens, they also have a wastewater treatment plant, which is called a phytorate system, developed by NEERI. And the treated wastewater is given to every individual home free of cost. They can afford to do so because they recover the cost through the water bill itself. So the water is metered and tariffed by the gated community, and wastewater is provided free, which means that the net use of clear water is reduced dramatically. With per capita net use of water comes to about 70 LPCD. So it can happen at gated community levels. Again, the question to us is, how do we incentivize this for gated communities or for this kind of development so that people will practice wastewater treatment and reuse as much as possible? It could mean legal enforcement. It could mean communitizing borewells or aquifer reuse. It could also mean giving the resident associations the power to decide how to manage wastewater, and that being obligatory on all the members to obey and follow, right? So making recharge, rainwater harvesting, wastewater, it's part of the IUWM cycle, and all of it needs to be followed. It's not just wastewater or not just rainwater harvesting, as we all know. We have great examples, technologies akin to Singapore, where for the last 12 years in Bangalore, in Cubbon Park, it's a 4 MLD MBR system which takes wastewater and treats it to drinking water standards, but then uses it to spray it on parks. How do we make sure that once we do the treatment to the highest standards, we use it for that appropriate use? One good way, this I will go along to say what can overcome the yuck factor, right? So one way of looking at wastewater is to integrate it with watersheds and lakes. This is a soil biotechnology developed by IIT Mumbai, which has been put in a lake called Herohalli, which is roughly about 30 acres. What you see is actually a wastewater treatment system. It's a vertical filter, soil biotechnology system. This is how wastewater is spread through drips on gravel medium, which is vertical, and it looks integrated with the landscape. None of the walkers or joggers notice anything different about this place, and there's no smell, there's no foul odor, there's no unsightly thing, and then it fills the lake, right? So you can integrate wastewater treatment systems with lake rejuvenation and plug it together so that biodiversity is enhanced and lakes are restored in the urban context. Another example, which is slightly larger, Jakkur Lake, which is a favorite of mine, 50 hectares of water spread. One of the lakes, the center one is that. What you do is you set up a conventional treatment plant. Now, what is centralized, what is decentralized becomes a matter of debate, because this plant is about 15 MLD now, 15 million liters per day. Traditionally, Bangalore would build 270, 300 MLDs. Now they start to build 15 and 10 MLDs. For me, this is decentralization enough. So treated wastewater in a conventional reactor, sludge itself becomes a resource which is sold for 10,000 rupees a truckload. So how do we design wastewater treatment plants to recover sludge, to recover energy, possible completely? And then the treated wastewater quality is really good. It's very reasonable. It's actually tertiary treatment standards here. Then locating this sewage treatment plant upstream of a wetland so that you push the treated wastewater through the wetland. As you can see from here, this is the wetland which polishes the wastewater further, the wetland being a spot for biodiversity, clearing the water further. And this is the clean water which flows in from the wetland into the water body, into the main water body. And the main water body then harbors fishing, which fishing becomes a livelihood for fishers and provides proteins for the city. And this is how the lake looks like, only filled with treated wastewater. Biodiversity returns, painted storks, pelicans, everything returns. So you can sort of start to enhance the quality of life of our cities using wastewater as the critical entry point, right? So that's one of the things that's possible. Great recreation spot, great spot for biodiversity, but also recharging the aquifer and bringing up the water table. And this water is now fit for drinking without the yuck factor. So you've taken wastewater, remediated it, and then converted it to groundwater, which becomes fit for drinking. This is a model which will work in urban India, especially in the metropolises, if taken further, right? Good, clear, clean water. The only thing that is needed to be treated here is biological bacteria, right? So it's a simple sand filter and a simple chlorinator will convert this to good quality drinking water. We can do a water balance and figure out how to work on it, right? So broadly, just wanted to share some of these ideas with you. This is all I had to discuss. There's a lot that can be done. And happy to take questions and to take discussion points.
No, thank you very much, Mr. Vishwanath. Very interesting, real case studies, real success stories of communities and decentralized. And I agree with you, 15 MLD and the way that you described it would be part of that decentralized process that you described. Same question as earlier. What are the challenges to have these solutions adopted that you've been facing as you promote these solutions?
There's no challenge, Mr. Anil. It's actually a question of, it's a way of seeing, right? The Tumkur example that I quoted, the same Tumkur example is being repeated in Chikballapur, in Ballari, in many other towns, right? In Hubli, Dharwad, for example. Both a combination of treated and untreated wastewater is being used by agriculturists. It's not formally recognized, but informally it's happening. Not a drop of it is going anywhere, right? All of it is being picked up. But we don't have the institutional structure to engage with the farmers to help them better improve their practice and to reduce health risks. We have something called the Sanitation Safety Plan of the World Health Organization, but that is run by public health engineering specialists. So how do we bring multidisciplinary groups to talk to each other and sort out the problem of wastewater, not just at the city level, but at a larger hinterland level? Depends on the kind of institutional architecture we put in place. If we put the right institutional architecture, we have exciting solutions, low-cost solutions, and solutions which will actually help both city and agriculture.
So thank you very much. I think National Water Mission will certainly take these suggestions on board in terms of institutional architecture with a multidisciplinary focus. And I think with water, you do need that multidisciplinary approach. It's water writ large. And the fit for purpose example, I think, is a good way to go forward, especially for reuse water for agri purposes. So thank you so much. I think this has been very enriching for all of us. I'd like to thank all the 4 speakers who've spoken on this panel, which I think has been very interesting and thought-provoking, and good examples have come forward. I'll close this session now with your permission and hand over to Mr. Tejdeep Singh for his vote of thanks, and he is a senior scientist with the National Water Mission.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sinha, for handing me over for the vote of thanks. Great water webinar, such an elaborative discussion. All the panelists out of the world, and the work done by them are extremely important and very informative. Before I start my vote of thanks, first of all, I must congratulate Priya for setting the context for the meeting, and my sincere thanks to the MUP Shravan, Commissioner, for his keynote address.
Thanks, sir.
I'm thankful to both the moderators who have moderated the panel discussion in a very efficient and very efficient and practical manner. In panel 1, the speakers were very elaborative, particularly Venkatesh, and Venkatesh was explained about the small scale water bodies in all the southern states and particularly Bihar also, and the community driven people's contribution planning, This is very interesting that 20%, 25% investment come from the people's participation. That was an excellent thing. Second presentation was given by Mr. B. Nagendra Rao. He has put forward the case of Telangana very nicely. It was very elaborative, and he has explained, as we know, that Telangana is a very new, young state, doing very good. So he explained his point here. In the second panel, the representative of the municipal commissioner of Saharanpur, since I have worked mostly in Punjab and adjoining areas of Haryana, so I know the geological setup of Saharanpur district, and he has explained the pilot project in detail. They are doing commendable job there. After him, Dr. Suresh Rohila from CSE spoke about one thing which has impressed me a lot. That he says that they have made their CSE office. First, they have made their CSE office that is zero waste complex. So charity begins at home. So this is an example of charity begins at home. And the last speaker was Mr. S. Vishwanath from Bayonne. His idea of growing baje, the wetland crop, can have the solutions for wastewater treatment, as well as it can create revenue for the farmers also. That's an excellent idea. Overall, this webinar was very informative and very participative to all of us. I once again thanks all of you for participating and contributing with your valuable comments. Thank you very much. Back to you, Raj, please.
Thank you very much, Tejal Singh, and thank you everybody for joining. We will shortly share highlights from today's webinar, and also share with you the agenda and the save the date topic for the third webinar.
Yuvraj, I can see some questions and some comments some other people wanted to present. Please, as part of the multi-stakeholder process and platform, if you do have suggestions that you want to be part of some panel, please let Yuvraj know. We'll certainly find some space for you to present your examples. I'm glad that this has engendered this kind of interest. And lastly, to acknowledge that Mr. Ajit Radhakrishnan is here also. The head of the Water Resources Group across India. So the entire Water Resources Group team is there to support and work with you, as well as with the National Water Mission.
Thank you, Anil. And thanks, Yuvraj.
Thank you, organizers. Thank you, Anilji. Anilji, dhanyawad. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Namaskar.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.